Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. Oh, excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Good.
Yeah.
I know we're recording. You know, I just came back from vacation.
Oh, nice. Somewhere nice, I hope.
St. Martin.
Oh, lovely. Lovely.
It was nice.
How are the beaches?
Oh, the beaches are nice. The beaches are got a nice active stuff to do.
Mm-hmm. Necessary.
All right. And do you have the agenda or do you need me to project it?
Can you project it for me, if you don't mind?
Let me actually put that up now. Can you see that okay?
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I know just Yvette Bello did mention she could not make it, but the rest should be on the call. Let me check in.
So we'll give it a few more minutes to be respectful of everyone's time. We will give it one more minute and start at 4:35. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Teaching and Learning Committee meeting for our Board of Education. My name is Francoise Darostel Ledger, and I'm the chair of the Teaching and Learning Committee. I would like to thank everyone for being here, and if we could all introduce ourselves. I started with myself. And I'd like to pass it along to, I see Daisy Torres is on the line.
Good afternoon, I'm Daisy Torres. I'm the Director of Services for Multilingual Learners. Nice to be here.
Thank you, welcome. And if you could pass it along to another person.
Absolutely, I see Marjorie Rice.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Marjorie Rice. I'm the principal of McDonough Middle School, and I've also brought our assistant principal here.
Hello, I'm Billy Conroy Longo. I'm one of the assistant principals here at McDonough Middle School.
And our other assistant principal, Ms. Caitlin Bexley, excuse me, is taking her son out for his first day of school ice cream cone, so she is sorry to have missed the meeting.
Totally understandable.
With that, I will
And-
pass it to Dr. Negron.
Thank you, Principal Rice, Dr. Madeline Negron, Chief of Academics, and I would like to pass it to Chief Avila.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Yvette Avila, Chief of Schools, and I'm going to pass it over to Patrick Flynn.
Hi, everyone. I'm Patrick Flynn. I am the founder and creator of Revision Learning Partnership and co-author for Tepper and Flynn LLC. I will pass it over to, well, Flora. I thought I saw Flora in the car driving through the, hey.
You see Flora at the beach, Flora Badro, principal of Hartford High. I have limited view from here, so I'm not going to pass it on, but I'm hoping it's like double Dutch and somebody jumps in.
I'll jump in because I realize my name is not my name on the screen. Christina Santiago, the board liaison, and I will pass it on to Ryan Fenderson.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. My name is Dr. Ryan Fenderson, and I am with the International Institute of Restorative Practices. I am the Director of School-Based Implementation, and I will pass it to Caitlin Jacobs.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Caitlin Jacobs. I am the acting assistant principal at SAND, but I am formerly the assistant director of extended day, extended year. So I'm glad to be here to support the summer program overview. And I will pass it over to Hannah.
Hi, everyone. I am Hannah Kieser, and I am the fellow working with the Office of Academics. And I will pass it to Kim.
Kim, can you hear us?
I am here. Sorry, everyone. I am trying to make this work. Okay, so the video now is not popping on, so I don't know what I did wrong. Maybe it's on now. Kim Oliver, I am the second vice chair for Hartford Board of Ed and a member of the Teaching and Learning Committee. Hello. I was trying to pay attention to who came on after me. I think I saw Ms. Shante, but outside of that, I don't know who else came in after me. So hello, everyone.
Assuming that was passing it to me, I'm Shantae Brody, Hartford Board of Education School Board member. And I'm thinking everyone had to have gone by now.
Okay, thank you so much for all the introductions. And we are now going to go into the agenda. And our first item on the agenda is contract approval, curriculum associates, elevation platform. And who will be presenting?
I will start the presentation, and I have Daisy Torres here with us today in case additional information is needed.
Thank you.
Oh, and I need to share the PowerPoint. Hold on.
Yes, thank you.
Give me, sorry.
Christina.
Little distracted. Let me stop sharing this.
Okay, so we want to take an opportunity to share a little bit about elevation and to give you some details so you can understand what our intent is to use this platform across the district. Next slide, Christina. So right now, just to set some context, the state requires consistent identification and exit procedures for all multilingual learners. And as we know, right, we have 20.5% of our students who are identified as multilingual learners. So on an annual basis, we have to make sure that we are considering multiple student data sources and assessment data, basically all of the information that we have about the students so that we can engage in programmatic decisions, as well as informing the students' personalized learning plans. And right now, a lot of this process is done by having to tap into different platforms to make sure that you access every single piece of data that we have around our multilingual learners to be able to make those decisions. Elevation offers an opportunity as a platform to house all the data in one place to help us get to operational effectiveness. So a little bit about the platform itself. It is basically a comprehensive data management platform that allows to organize that data, as I mentioned, for multilingual learners. It provides progress monitoring reports that you're able to extract from it. It would house all of the mandated paperwork that we currently have, right, as mandated by state law and also federal laws. The beauty is that it automatically syncs with PowerSchool. And again, it would enable us to, in our fingertips, pull all the reports that we need, again, to make decisions around our multilingual learners. Christina, if we go to the next slide. If we are able to purchase the platform, right, have the contract approved, we will then be able to provide access to our educators to be able to use it. Right now, we're looking at our principals, assistant principals, teachers, and instructional coaches. I want to name that last year we did do a pilot in which we had our multilingual teachers and our ESOL teachers work with the platform because we wanted to know, is this user-friendly? And basically what we heard at the end of that pilot is that it was very favorable because, again, it put everything in the fingertips and you were able to just get every single piece of data that you needed around multilingual learners. If we bring it on board this year, we would want to offer 2.5 hours of training virtually to anybody that's going to be able to use the platform. That would entail understanding, right, how to navigate it. It would also entail how to go about generating those school-based ML data reports, and also how to acquire all the data from the platform to then be able to develop those personalized learning plans. There are also self-guided professional learning modules that are available that anybody can access once we are able to have access to the platform. We are looking for a contract term of a year. The contract amount is $80,175. I want to explain that that breaks down into, give me 1 second. I have my notes here and I don't know where they went. But it is about 6,000 or so that goes to the professional learning. The rest of it is all the cost of the actual platform. And we do have the funding. The funding would be from the Title III entitlement grants. So this is it. And again, I do have Daisy Torres with me, the Director for Multilingual Services. In the events that there are any questions for either she or I, as it relates to the Elevation platform.
Okay, I just would like to thank you so much for that so far. And I would just do I'd like to do a little check-in to see if anyone has any questions right now before we continue. I don't see any hands, but I do have a question. If PowerSchool, oh, I see that give me just one moment, Board Member Brody.
No, you can
If
go.
we do have, okay, thank you. So if there's, for example, if Power School happens to go down or there's some type of glitch in the system, what is the backup if Power?
So this will be accessible via Clever. And I know that I have Daisy here who can explain a little more of the technical pieces. But again, it's an online, right? So we should be able to enter to access it through that medium. But Daisy, I'm gonna let
Yes.
you expand.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I just want to make sure that you can hear me okay. And I could see some nods. So thank you. So thank you for that question. It's always interesting when you talk about technology, right? So it does absolutely feed, as Dr. Negron mentioned, through Clever. That's how you log in, and through Power School. But I just want to name that right now, all of our teachers across the district are in a paper way of collecting data right now. We have files in compliance folders that we hold, for state purposes that we need to have for every child. So our teachers currently do have data on our students. They're more in that old-fashioned kind of Excel sheet, your old-fashioned kind of folders. And that's the purpose of why we want to move to Elevation, so that we can have a more streamlined process that's paperless, but they will always have data should that platform, for whatever reason, shut down. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And one more question from me, and then I'm going to go to Board Member Brody. You said, it was stated that 2.5 hours of training, or 2.5 hours of training virtually would be available, and then there were self-guided learning modules. Do you believe that's enough, or like how deep will you go into it within the 2.5 hours of training?
It's a great
So
question.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead,
Daisy.
Dr. Negron. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
The 2.5 again gets you to fully be able to operate the platform, because it is user friendly. And again, during the pilot, we also found that that was optimal time to be able to get and arrive at the overall outcome that we wanted in terms of building user capacity. The other pieces that I mentioned related to the self-guided professional learning, that will be for people that want to extend that learning, learn about other things that the platform offers. That's why those will be more like optional. And Daisy, I don't know if I left anything out.
No, I think that was a good overview of the platform in terms of the professional learning. We have found in our pilot that there's, even though it's 2.5 hours, there's a lot of sort of that guided gradual release model. So our professional learner trainer, our trainer is really good about showing and then having people practice on their devices and, sort of there to troubleshoot, so that they're actually having that hands-on experience in real time. And we have found that that was very favorable in terms of the survey results we received. So we will then attempt to do, we'll do the same thing now with our administrators and whoever would like to be part of that training. And then based on the survey results at the end, we will follow up and offer some additional, more personalized training if needed.
Okay, thank you so much. And now Board Member Brody has a question.
Yes, is this forward facing? Like, is it for just staff only? That's my first question.
So I can take that if you're okay with that, Dr. Negron. It is a platform that is available to anyone in the district who has access to Power School. So like I said, you can go in through Clever, and what we do in my department is kind of assign user roles. So some people will just have school-based access, some will have district. That's we manage that in our department, but anybody has access to that. So we're trying to slowly roll that out. So, people who want to really interact with it, we're going to provide that training, but we really want to make sure that everybody has full access to that platform.
Parents?
So this is right now is internally. That's a great question. I have not heard in my research with other districts who use it in Connecticut that there is like a parent facing feature, right? So right now it seems to be like internal, like, you know, the district use. But I haven't heard right now that it's a parent facing tool.
Okay, I have a couple more questions. Should I keep going?
Sure.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so for our students who are multilingual or multi-language learners and they have IEPs and 504s, are they housed on this platform? That's
a great question. So, you know, we have access to know who are our duly identified students, so we can pull reports that show us that information, and whatever is feeding right now through, I know there's a whole new platform through PowerSchool, then we're able to see that data. We can't change anything, can't edit anything on that side, but we can see it. It pulls that information in when we're doing our reporting.
And we have community partners working with this population of students. How would they receive the access they need to support the student? Is that possible?
So I'll ask Dr. Negron to chime in on here, but my understanding is anybody who has district access credentials to PowerSchool, or, you know, has access to the platforms that are available, then that is also open to them as well.
So Board Member Brody, it would align with any of the other protocols that currently exist for data access that have already been articulated and agreed upon. So I would say it would be the same as to any other type of data sources.
Okay, and I guess my last question that I could think of at the moment is more like, so we have, do we have anywhere that in one place, like all of our staff is multiple platforms, they require to go here for there, here for that, here for this. So is there like a compiled list of all these things that the staff has to access to when, whether it's teaching, whether it's tutoring, whether it's all of those things that one teacher has to navigate through all of these platforms, because this is not the only one.
Well, you're absolutely right. There are multiple, and we're trying to do better and better each year on how we can make sure that everything comes together, often through that like single sign-on concept that allows somebody then to access multiple platforms. So for example, I want to mention like Clever, right? Clever is one now that when you open up, as soon as you sign up there, you're able to access different data platform by just going through Clever. So you're not having to open multiple platforms at the same time. I don't know if that makes any sense. I apologize, I don't have all the technical language that often one would use to explain these technicalities.
No problem. I guess the better question is, are you able to provide to board members the plethora of platforms that we utilize, that our staff is required to utilize? I think that's more so my question. Like what the platform is and what it actually does, to give us an idea of what, you know, what the school staff has experienced with if this student is this, it's information housed here, there, even if it's PowerSchool, all of those systems that they're required to access to do their job.
So Board Member Brody, I would say I'm making a note of that, and I'm sure Christina is as well. And then we can direct the ask to Dr. Silver, who most likely will be the one that will be able to help us to share some of that information with board members.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Board Member Brody. And now we can continue. Thank you so much for answering those questions. There was a continuation of the presentation, or?
Yes, sorry, you mean the next agenda item, which is revision learning partnership? I believe you're right, because we're done with.
We're done. Okay, so we're done. So yes, can you please pull up the agenda for me?
Yep.
Sorry. Thank you.
I actually pulled up the PowerPoint. Hold on. There you go.
Thank you so much. And yes, the next agenda item is the contract. It's very tiny. Sorry, if you could zoom in, contract. Oh, no, it's a little tinier.
Is it the contract renewal for revision learning?
Okay. Yes, thank you so much. So contract renewal for revision learning, and who's going to present on that?
And for that, we have Chief Avila.
And Chief Avila, are you ready?
I am ready. May I start?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I just want to say we are revision learning is not new to Hartford Public Schools. They have been working with Hartford Public Schools for many years now, and I'm happy to talk about a three-part partnership, meaning that they're going to be working with central office, with Hartford High, as well as McDonough. So I just want to go through that and explain the partnership on three different aspects of the particular different contracts. So it's three separate contracts, but one partner. And so, Christina, the partnership is aligned to our strategic initiatives and definitely to our priorities, as well as our vision and mission for the district. You can go to the next slide. So just a little bit about revision learning. They have provided high quality professional learning since 2010 across the state of Connecticut in 80 different districts. They have worked in Hartford with administrators since 2014 and really supported the district in calibrating and training administrators on how to deliver the evaluation tool that we use and to make sure that they're doing it in an effective way. And actually they assess the administrators prior to an administrator fully being appointed and have to pass an assessment in order to do so. Additionally, they have supplied feedback on how to really support the work in lifting the evaluation system as a tool for professional learning and growth as well. In that time, they have written 2 books that we hold dearly and that we use with our administrators to really support the delivery of observations as well. Go to the next slide. And so one of the areas of focus that we want to talk about at the district level is really to calibrate the leadership, which means school-based leaders, EDSLs, and content directors who all evaluate teachers, and really understanding the instructional practices in alignment with the instructional vision as well. So we've worked on the instructional vision for now 2 years, and now we want to just strengthen the work with the instructional vision and making sure there's an alignment with our observations and evaluations as well in regard to the instructional vision. Really thinking about developing structures and strategies for supervision to elevate how we evaluate and support our school leaders based on the instructional needs that are identified at the school level Excuse me. And then we have a committee that is mandated by the State Department of Education called PDEC, and it stands for Professional Development and Evaluation Committee. And Mr. Flynn and his team will also support Dr. Curtis with the PDEC committee because she runs the PDEC committee. And I just want to mention here, I think we talked about it last year, but want to lift again that the State Department is changing how evaluation will happen, and Mr. Flynn is lucky to be on committee and can really help support us moving us forward. Actually, I believe ahead of everybody else. So I'm really happy that he has that insight and foresight to be on the state committee as well. You can go to the next slide. And just really wanted to sort of summarize, some of the things that Mr. Flynn and his team will be working on. When you think about the quarterly cycle, this is one of the tools that Revision Learning has, and it's really the core of their work. And if you really think about the different ways that we have opportunities to really engage with instruction, monitor it, and actually observe it, when you think about the non-evaluative tool that we have to really look at instruction through walkthroughs and actually be able to see at a school level the trends that come out of that to really support the professional development that's needed. When you think about the school-wide grade, subject, and inquiry teams to really help support the teams. So what should teams be working on at the grade level or by the content teams should be working on? Administrative walkthroughs. So we have ILPs, which stand for Instructional Leadership Practices, where administrators have the opportunity by grade level to really focus on looking at instruction very closely and practice delivering feedback as well, both orally and written, so that they can develop their capacity to really make sure, and an opportunity for self-reflection as well, and to collaborate with other administrators during that time. And Revision Learning will be helping us to support that work to make sure that we are calibrated, and then really being responsive to professional learning in the whole. So it's really important to have professional learning at all levels of our organization. And this particular professional learning is really supporting the work for our leaders, our district and school leaders as well. You can go to the next slide. And just thinking about anticipated outcomes for the district leaders, it would really strengthen our alignment around observation, feedback among all the leaders, and definitely strengthen the collaboration and planning and the implementation with our strategic operating plan. It aligns in several different priorities, definitely in the teaching learning piece, and also the operational effectiveness, and really developing a culture of learning together and collaboration. So I would also say that definitely also supports our climate and culture. At the school level, thinking about the alignment among the school leaders within a building. So you have the assistant principals, and you also have the principals, and really aligning their work as well. And then aligning the work that happens with the EDSL, with the school leaders, and also the content directors, because they also have co-supervision and co-observations that happen. So it will also strengthen that. And then it really ultimately will support the growth of our teachers with not only their skills and instructional practices, but also their content knowledge that will definitely impact student outcomes. And that's why we're doing all of this. That slide we can skip. Okay, so the second component is Hartford Public High, and Revision Learning has had a partnership with them since last year and have worked with Hartford High as well in a similar model, but really working with teacher leadership. And if you can go to the next slide. And so here are some of the things that have happened at Hartford High in relation to Revision Learning. There was an opportunity that they designed and facilitated twice a month, the instructional leadership team, and that's composed of teachers and administration, and really had the opportunity to really build the capacity around the department leads so that they can engage in peer-to-peer observation and provide each other feedback to build their own capacity and build their muscles around observation. Really fostered collaborative planning alongside with the ILT, and that stands for Instructional Leadership Team, was able to really have a once a month opportunity so that they can have a staff-facing professional learning opportunity that really focused on student-centered practices, and that was definitely in alignment with our instructional vision. And then the next piece was around the administrative team, which really just worked with the administration, and then had monthly observations and walkthroughs in those classrooms. And I've had the opportunity to join them a few times as well. And this also aligned with the work with the Commissioners Network, because the Commissioners Network also visited to go conduct observations and walkthroughs monthly as well. I think they were bi-monthly, actually. Ms. Padro can confirm that. And then really just making sure that providing feedback on context specifically around PLCs, which are professional learning committees, so that they can actually enhance the effectiveness of their collaboration during their planning time, as well as the structures in which they do that. And then conducting observations with the administrative team on co-taught lessons, so that they can really help each other, especially with the special education support. Next slide. And so moving forward, they will continue the support and practices that were implemented last year, building the capacity with the instructional leadership team, and then direct coaching for department leads to support peer-to-peer observation and feedback. And though this is not intended initially, but it makes me think also, I would just want to highlight that this work also supports retention. Teachers really feel very supported, as well are taking leadership roles. And that is something that the teachers have requested. And actually, when it has happened, and I've seen it happen at Harford High, they are very proud of the work that they do. They have taken ownership, and they're actually looking forward to this coming year as well. And those services will provide 3 half-day leadership workshops, 17 one-hour ILT meetings, 7 check-ins with the different grade levels in the department leads, 7 ILT walkthroughs, and then administrative professional learning and outcomes planning, and then assistant principal coaching that will really support the whole administrative team. I do want to point out that all of this work is in alignment with our instructional vision, and Revision Learning will also be attending instructional walkthroughs as well, so they can see it firsthand, and so that there's coherence among all of the pieces as well. We can go to the next slide. And if you think about the outcomes for Harford High, it's really alignment around observation and feedback. And it really lifts the work with the teachers as well to understand fully the whole observation tool, and also understanding the feedback that they're given. It really improves the communication around the PLCs and helps coherence between the data that is seen, as well as the feedback that's giving and goals in progress. And then for teachers, it's really around the alignment between planning, so that the planning and the student data is driving the work, and that observation is a way to make sure that they get feedback, as well as understand what's being delivered and how that impacts student work, and then strengthening collaboration and the instructional practices. And this will directly impact students' growth around their own skills and the content knowledge that is being delivered. And then before we go into McDonough, I just want to say that McDonough, just want to remind everyone that McDonough is a Commissioners Network school, as well as Harford High. I didn't say that, just want to remind everyone. And part of the planning for McDonough to become a Commissioners Network school was to have a through line between McDonough and Harford High. And so there are several things that they are working on together collaboratively to have that through line. Revision Learning is one of the partnerships that they will have the through line, so that there will be consistency from 6th through 12th grade, even though they're 2 different schools, and that it will also foster collaboration among the 2 schools with the teachers and the administration. So I just wanted to point that out, one of the reasons why we are intentional about having Revision Learning from 6 through 12, and then at the district level to have a whole set of coherence going on here. Okay. And they will support the building the capacity administrators and the IO team as well. And they will establish supports and systems for distributive leadership. And that also will impact teacher leadership, because as the administration gives that distributive leadership to others and builds their capacity, they're giving that leadership opportunity to the teachers to build their capacity to also have peer-to-peer analysis of the practices and take ownership for that piece as well. And they will have a similar structure as far as the amount of touch points. They will also, in particularly, which is unique to McDonough's Commissioners Network, is to build out a new teacher academy and a high quality differentiated instruction just for new teachers. And that is one of the retention strategies in that Commissioners Network grant for McDonough. And then there will definitely be training and coaching for peer-to-peer observation so that they can do it well to fidelity. And the outcomes for administration is similar, that they will have improved and pinpointed feedback. So really specific, explicit feedback is one of the things that Principal Rice wants to work on around observation practices, also developing system and structures for the PLC and giving voice to teachers to support and analyze and monitor their own progress so that they also are taking ownership for it, and really increase the understanding on the impact of learning for teachers and collaboration, as well as improved instructional practices focused on access, equity, and differentiation. And this will ultimately also impact students with increased academic growth. And so I will stop and ask if there are any questions.
Thank you so much, Chief Avila. And I do not see, oh, I do see a hand up. Board Member Brody, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So on the first, and I'm sorry, I wasn't following along because the device I'm on is not allowing me to see the document like as you were presenting. So on slide 2, which is the first slide that has the data identifying our 2024 major goals. Later on in the presentation, it does give some of the things that I'm assuming happened, because this is not our first, they've done work with us. And this is just a continuation. I'm correct, right?
So yes, it's a continuation, but there's also some expansion as well. So I would say yes and.
Okay. So in the partnership background slide, it does give some of the things that, we've done and we worked on, but can anything that they've done with us, can any of them tie to any results? Like we think as a result of working with them, something, because I see the major goals, but I don't see it in the context of as a result of our work with them, this were the outcomes or the improvements, so to speak.
So I'll speak a little bit at the district level, and I'll ask Dr. Negron if she wants to chime in at any point, and then I'll turn it over to Principal Padro. The work hasn't happened yet at McDonough, but then I'll turn it over to Principal Padro as well. And then, and also invite them because they've experienced from the very beginning, in order to evaluate, they had to, have the services of revision learning. And so I will tell you that even prior to me arriving in Hartford, it was really a focus on understanding how we have to calibrate to, one, develop the understanding to have consistent practices across the district on how to evaluate teachers, to really make sure that, one, it's a tool of support, It's a tool of providing feedback and explicit feedback. So there's a clear understanding of what are the next necessary steps to support instruction. And so have I seen that? I would say yes, that I have seen that there has been the same language that has been delivered, the fact that we clearly know what a claim is and how to connect that, so that we are really supporting our leaders to make sure as they're doing observations that they are taking notes appropriately so that they can provide explicit feedback. So we would never say, oh, that's good instruction, right? Because that is too general. That's not a term we would use. We'd be explicit about what we have seen. And so I would say that I have seen that piece of it. And as we continue to do our work and we make sure that all of our leaders go through that, one of the things we did notice is that it's been a while for some of our leaders, and right, we have a lot of new leaders. And so that there was a need to provide additional support to revisit. So some of what we will be offering is an opportunity to revisit. There's also a new book, so that you know, there's been refinement to the practices that Revision Learning has offered, and so that we can remain current as school leaders as well. And so I would say that, and then I will say the feedback that I do get from school leaders, and I'm going to turn it over 2 seconds, that they really do benefit from the services from Revision Learning and do enjoy the collaboration and learn a lot. So I have 2 leaders. Which one would like to, oh, may I turn it over first? Let me ask that question.
Absolutely.
Okay. So either one of you who would like to start, Ms. Padra, would you like to start? I know it's hard to find that unmute button.
Hello, there we go.
Yeah.
My apologies, things disappeared. So absolutely, I can start with the forward planning aspect of it. So coming into Hartford, we wanted to form that cohesion that Chief Avila is talking about. And so we knew that we needed to have a unified vision that aligned with the district, but also with the needs of the school of what instruction is going to look like. What Mr. Flynn and his organization has done with the administration first was actually add that layer of forward planning and cohesiveness of what we were looking for in alignment with standards-based learning and alignment with the district. So then we can create a professional learning calendar for the year that would support the teachers. The second part of that was strengthening the already existing ILT, the instructional leadership team we had based of teachers, teacher leaders. We expanded the positions of teachers leaders to encompass teachers within special education, TESOL, the arts. And the work that we did in that was invaluable because it helped us define as a community of learners and teachers, what does student-centered practices look like and what specific practices we were going to work on and get really good at. And that was everything for us and really shifting what instruction looked like in the classroom and how we were engaging all students. And so, for example, the work that we did around student-centered practices, there was a focus on station rotations, which allows for teachers to create multiple access points to the curriculum in a classroom within a period. It allowed teachers to plan for differentiation. It allowed teachers to have diverse activities, more inclusive activities that really engaged our students. And that was the operative word, right? What does engagement look like? We were able to come to the table and define that. The second half of student-centered practices was around discourse. And we got to see a lot of that also practiced in the classroom. We were able to create tools. Teachers were able to bring other teachers into the classroom and try some of these practices that were part of professional learning and get feedback from each other on, maybe what could have been done differently or what worked really well. And that really, really solidified a unified vision for what instruction is at Hartford High. But it also, like Chief Avila said, it made our teachers feel proud of the work that they were doing. The proof or the results of the data, the significant difference between what our commissioners network rating, so they come in twice a month and they evaluate according to a state rubric what instructional practices look like. Vast improvement from the first one to the last one. We actually made significant shifts in our mid-year audit in the area of instruction. So we were able to quantify that. I can say Hartford High had a pretty significant graduation rate in June. We continue to graduate students through the summer, and we retained a lot of our core content teachers. And so when Chief Avila is saying that teachers are happy to come back, we just did our kickoff last week. We introduced some of this work. Before that we even came back, we were able to have a planning session with our EDSL, with Patrick Flynn, and with our new IoT team. Again, we grew that team to encompass more people that service our special populations. There was a focus last year also on working with special populations and what that could look like. And so we're not just continuing that work, we're adding to our practices and adding to the amount of teacher leaders that we're coming into the building with at this point. So there is quantifiable data to support the work.
Principal
you
Rice.
so Go ahead.
Sorry.
Thank you so much.
Hi, sure. Thank you. So thank you, Principal Padro. This just only makes us more excited here at McDonough to begin our journey with revision at the school level. But at the district level here, revision has already provided us with meaningful and deep learning to ensure that all 3 administrators here at McDonough are calibrated around what high quality teaching and learning looks like, feels like, and sounds like, and to ensure that it makes an impact on student achievement. We did see some, I don't have my data points with me right in this moment, but we did see growth rates in reading and math last year, hitting those targets of 4% in math. ELA I don't have in front of me, but we do see that the practice of ensuring that we're giving pinpointed feedback to staff to improve their pedagogy and then provide those supports that revision is going to infuse into our day-to-day activity here at McDonough will only help us to bolster that. And I think, again, our new assistant principal, Ms. Bexley, just went through this process. Mr. Conroy's been through the process of learning through revision, calibrating through the revision, and taking those assessments to make sure we're on the same page. So definitely that's been our first exposure to revision, and we're very excited for the next steps and taking McDonough to the next place, to the next level in terms of teaching and learning.
Thank you so much. And I understand that you don't have the data with regards to the growth for the ELA. Are you able to get that for us?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. Board Member Brody, I see the hand up. Is this a new hand, or is your question, have your questions been satisfied?
My question haven't been satisfied, and I don't think it could be in this meeting, so I put my request in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we are going to continue with 1.03, which is contract continuation approval, International Institute of Restorative Practices. And who will be presenting?
I guess that would be me. I was not notified I was presenting. I was notified I was here to answer some questions.
Correct. So no, I will be presenting, and then so Mr. Ferguson is from IIRP, and that is the organization that we use for restorative practices. And so I will start by just recapping what happened last year, and so how we are moving forward. And so one of the components that we had last year to support our climate and culture was restorative practices. And in the past, prior to last year, there was restorative practices, professional learning in our district, but it was in small pieces, right? Which what I mean by that is there were 5 to 6 staff members that were trained at one time from each school. And last year we moved to a model where everyone was trained, right? So that meant that from the very first day, one of the first days that we returned in August, all school staff were trained. And over the course of a year, we made additional opportunities for SSOs, which is security safety officers. We provided professional learning for paraeducators, for our behavior techs, for our student engagement specialists. So anyone who services a school had the opportunity to have professional learning and restorative practices, which was really just the foundation of it. And over the course of the year, we had different 8 rest days, which is also part of our plan to implement restorative practices. And during that time, we had delivered restorative practices based on the train model, because IRP trained 9 of our staff members to be trainers. And so that was an opportunity for us to build internal capacity to also deliver the restorative practices, professional learning. And actually, we have someone on our call that also had the training and that provided that particular training. Mr. Conroy has done that and has also delivered the professional learning. So I will say that the next level of work is why we're here today to talk. And as we know, we would always like someone from our partnerships to be here to answer any questions. And that is why Ryan is here. So if we can go to the next slide. And so this particular contract aligns with our priority 2, which is welcoming culture and nurturing climate. It really fosters a sense of belonging. It really provides ownership for students and staff to resolve conflicts in a way that is engaging with each other. And if there is some particular harm that we repair the harm and learn from the situation and move forward in a positive way. And so these are just dates that had happened for last year, just to give some background that we had trained the trainer, and we had both in-person and virtual. We had full days and half days and our rest days. We definitely provided, which I said already, the different groups that we've also had. And then we had additional pieces around different other aspects of restorative practices embedded with trauma-informed practices. You can go to the next slide. And so this year, the plan is to have, we are going to have approximately 200 new teachers, and we want to make sure that everyone's on the same page and that everyone is well aware of how to implement restorative practices. So knowing that, we want to definitely provide them with the professional learning. Additionally, we will have 50 new support staff members if we meet all of our vacancies, and want to be proactive to make sure that they also have it. The idea is to provide additional training for our social workers and our school safety officers, and then to train, to have the train model expand to some additional behavior techs and assistant principals, so that we can continue to build our capacity internally, so that we can continue to grow and eventually not need as much services from the partner, and then really focus on restorative leadership development. So last year we were thinking about the foundation of restorative practices. Now we're going to the next level about restorative leadership development and responses to adversity and trauma. And that definitely aligns not only with our priorities, it also aligns to some of the conversations that we actually had already at Convocation. And so if we could go to the next slide. Just really some questions, if anyone had any questions.
Okay, thank you so much, Chief Avila. With regard, I do have a question. With regards to the 200 new teachers and 50 new support staff, how close are you to that number?
You mean of the hiring piece?
The hiring, and you're planning to train, but of the hiring, yes.
Of the hiring, I know that we hired 150 teachers already, and that actually went through teacher induction. And so I don't have a current number to date, but I know that we already had an induction for 150 new teachers and are in the process of also going through hiring some additional. So we have recommendations in, and I know that the Office of Talent Management is continuing to finalizing those hiring. And then as far as for the 50 support staff, that includes BTs, SESs, as well as paras and FCSSPs. And so we are about, I believe it's 30. I can definitely get the exact number, but we're not at 50 yet. Those are counts of vacancies that we would have to meet all of those vacancies to make sure that we have met the needs of all of our buildings.
Okay, thank you so much. And let me just see if we have any more questions. And I see that Board Member Brody has a question. Oh, go ahead, Board Member Brody.
Thank you. So I know we're not new to restorative practices, but are we new to restorative practices with the International Institute for Restorative Practices?
No, we're not. We used them last year, and even prior to last year, we did use them. We did have a previous contract with Joe Brummer, who also had different trainings from the same organization as well. So we are not new to them at all.
Okay. So just like the last contract, if we could, if I know as a result of working, when it's someone that we've worked with before, we have the advantage of, as a result of us working with you. So it's just along basically the same request that I had for the second contract presented today. Because I know we're saying these initiatives, they line up with our strategic operating plan, but I'm more so looking for the data that supports and validates our investment. Like, we made this investment and this is what we receive as a result of this investment. So I'm looking for that piece of data for this. And then for the first one, if I could squeeze in with just trying to get out that I know that organization did work with, they mentioned other districts in Connecticut. Well, I think that was our person talking, but if we that one to say, what district did you work with that was similar to Hartford? And how did you make those districts better? Like something that we can go off besides, this is what they're offering, this is what we need. What makes me comfortable with saying yes wouldn't be being aware of their past work and their past results. So it would be past work and past results for elevation, but for the other ones, it would be, you worked with us before and what were those actual results? So that's just my question. And I understand you may not have it today, but that is what I'm asking.
So Board Member Brody, we have a little bit of it today. I'd like to share a little bit and we will also follow up and give you more. But one of the things I just would like to say is that in a time of adversity, when our students came back and all across the nation, we heard the number of out of school suspensions and how children had difficulty with self-regulating and the number of incidents that happened. We actually had a decrease of our suspensions of 545 incidents of less suspensions, and I'll continue to give you more data. Just wanted to point that one data point out. I know that's not all of the data that you are requesting. And then I also have Principal Rice here, who has implemented and and the assistant principal in the school is a trainer. So I think that you could hear a little bit, and again, you still will get the other data that you were requested. But if I could turn it over to the administrative team at McDonough.
Absolutely. I'm going to turn it right over to Assistant Principal Conroy, who is an IIRP trainer, and he will share some context and also share some of our data.
Thank you. I'm very honored to be a trainer of IIRP, and the growth that we saw in terms of reducing our suspension rate was exceptional. When we look at the 2019-20 school year, which was the last full school year before the pandemic began, we had 124 instances of OSS. And then we dropped that to only 55 last year, which is still fairly high, and we want to continue to work toward dropping that further. But that was a testament to the work that we did at McDonough. So those were incidents went from 124 to 55, and actual days of out of school suspension went from 446 days to 157 days. So not only did we lower the instances, but we also lowered the length of suspensions, which kept students engaged even if there were infractions, because of the IIRP philosophy that we want to keep our students engaged in their learning, and that even if there is a consequence, we would follow up with a restorative approach and re-engage them in school to continue to keep them on the right track and be successful in school. I do not have a data point that I wish I had in front of me right now, but I do believe that we also lowered our recidivism, which would be the amount of students who continued to get suspended. It wasn't the same students over and over again, but it was different students at different points. And again, I really do believe that that speaks to IIRP's philosophy and its implementation here at McDonough last year.
I think too, another thing we've noticed even in these first few days of school, it's just been a wonderful return. And our students, it's been very enduring work. They know how our school operates. They know they're in a welcoming and safe environment. They know our core values. They know we're going to have conversations and work to repair harm. And we've just had such a wonderful, it's as if we didn't leave. The students have come in, they're in their classrooms, they're learning, they're engaged. And I think that also it is because of the hard work that's been put in and the partnership with IIRP.
Well, okay, thank you so much for answering that question. Board member Oliver has a question, has her hand up.
Thank you. I'm trying to figure out the right way to ask this question, and I apologize if I missed it. So this is us expanding the current work, and it feels like we're getting closer and closer to really having a systemic approach in terms of how we do restorative work in our schools. And I'm thinking about, while we are increasing, right, the number of people who are trained, and that definitely sounds like good stuff to me, how is it that with this contract and in this partnership is also helping us to establish whatever infrastructure, other conditions, et cetera, we need so that we can truly get to that place of the system as a restorative system at a district level. So I don't know if that's a clear question or not, but I'm hearing really good stuff and some of the outcomes that are coming and really good work that's happening at the school level. And I know there is work happening across the district. So just thinking about how all these things connect and continue to push up the work.
So I'll just go and answer. I'll just answer a little bit, and then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Fenderson also. So if you notice, one of the topics and the areas of focus moving forward is leadership development. And so it's not just necessarily school leaders and administration. It's really developing leaders that's going to support this work ongoingly to be sustainable. And so that the idea is to have at least 2 leaders, and I say leaders loosely because our teachers are leaders, but really leaders at each building that can also support the ongoing work. So you will see how developing their leadership will support embedding it. We're not at the point of embedding it totally everywhere, but you want to get it to is just the way we operate, right? So it's not that we do restorative practices, right? That's who we are and that's how we operate, sort of to what Principal Rice was saying. They're just coming in and they're just acting like that. And that's how we do that. And so we're closer, and in some schools we're closer than others, but having people on the spot every single day in the schools where that's happening, where someone's focused on that leadership, right? To be intentional about lifting the capacity, someone who can see in schools, oh, I think Yvette Avila needs a little bit more support, so I'm going to go help her, where I think Miss Oliver has it down pat, right? So Miss Oliver can support Christina and so on, but you know, Miss Avila, she needs more help, and there's someone there to do that other than just administration, right? So that we can build their capacity, and it'll just be, you know, how we operate. But I really want to lift that is also important as we have new members of the Hartford family or new staff members, that they also have to also be just engrossed in all of that, so that they can be truly part of the team and understand what's going on and have the same language and the same behaviors, so that we can keep it going and sustain it. So they also feel a sense of belonging, that they know what to do and how to handle it, and that children are receiving the consistency. Right. So if a new teacher comes in 4th grade or 6th grade and they had a certain way of work with one teacher, and then you have a new teacher who's doing something different, then that disturbs, right, the coherence. And so that's why it's also important to continue to support our new members of the Hartford family. Mr. Fenderson, I'm going to turn it over to you if you want to share, add anything, and also share any similar work that you've done in districts that are similar to Hartford.
Sure. So thank you for your questions. And Mr. Conroy, Mrs. Rice, McDonough, thank you for sharing the contributions to transformation there. That always makes me excited to hear those. So inside of the proposal for the continuing work, we have done work with staff at large. So think of our continued work now as a multi-tiered approach, right? And so now it's looking at working with disciplinary teams across the district as it pertains to some of the more formal pieces of restorative practices, and working with leadership teams from across the district, and working with the whole child teams of social workers, counselors, school psychologists in the building, not just what is the base level restorative practices that all staff could participate in, but what is now the tiered levels of trainings that get more specific into their role and the unique aspects of their role. So this proposal is inclusive of restorative practice as it pertains to leadership, looking to embed restorative practice and a restorative mantra into the entire system, and how the entire system now works with those that they serve and those that they lead. And then same thing with disciplinary teams, same thing with whole child teams, and also more training of trainers, so that sustainability for the largest population of your tier 1 folk, the generalized staff, is more accessible for you. As far as next steps beyond that, you know, should that be where we go eventually, coaching, it would be the next thing. When we coach, it is looking to embed restorative practice, restorative ideologies into an entire system, and making the system more inclusive of voice and choice of all folks that interact with the system. As far as other schools that we've worked with that would be similar, I've got a few, you know, top of my head. Pittsburgh Urban Public Schools. In the last several years, we did a large project with them. It was a double-blind study. So we were given 1/2 of urban Pittsburgh Public Schools to do restorative practice, and they made their matched pairs for us to work in. That study was published several years ago by the RAND Corporation, who tracked all the data points. What we saw in the Pittsburgh project was increased student attendance, increased student engagement, increased staff satisfaction, decreased suspensions, with the largest decrease in student suspensions happening with our young African-American boys and girls. And so that study is widely accessible. If you were to just Google that, Pittsburgh and RAND, or it was called PERC, P-E-R-C, Pursuing Equitable Restorative something, the PERC, PERC in Pittsburgh. We followed that up with a large scale project in Louisville, Kentucky. We are currently in a project with Wichita Public Schools, which is involved. Wichita has 90 schools. We are currently involved in a 90 school project in Wichita, Kansas. I know I also have some limited involvement thus far with Waterbury Public Schools, and I've also been working with somebody from the Connecticut State Department of Ed around building an internal for Connecticut coaching model that reinforces restorative practices that is theirs, not ours, that can create some sort of synergy and some sort of streamlined approach to what is happening in Connecticut at large. And so that work is happening in the background right now. But those are the most accessible and researched things that you could get access to pretty quickly.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fenderson, for answering those questions. Thank you so much, Chief Avila, for the presentation. And we are, for the sake of time, we need to move on to agenda item 2.0, which is the summer program update, academics. And who will be presenting?
I will be presenting, and I have with me Kaylin Jacobs, who will be co-facilitating with me.
Thank you so much. You have the floor.
So before I begin, I do want to take a minute to thank not only Kaylin Jacobs, who was instrumental in putting together the design that we put into effect this summer. I also want to thank the numerous number of teachers and staff members across the entire district, as well as the community-based organizations that all came together to partner up to be able to offer this experience to our beautiful and capable students. So in this summer, Christina, on the next slide, there were many highlights that we experienced throughout the program. Here, we're just highlighting some of those for you. We are going to be going a little deeper into some of these pieces, but I'll give you a minute to take a look at those. And in the next slide, I have here what I'm hoping to share with you in the next few minutes. So we want to take a look and review the program design that we had, the financial investment that was made throughout these programs, share data around the enrollment, participation rates, some of the assessment data that we have, as well as the partnerships, and go a little deeper as it relates to credit recovery. So let me start by quickly going over the design. So again, these were the programs that were implemented this summer. we had early start, which was for any student that was entering kindergarten through 5, right? So those are the kids who are now in kinder 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And in that program, we offer literacy, math, science, social emotional learning that was complemented by enrichment activities. There we had morning academics in the morning and enrichment in the afternoons. And the enrichment was provided by a CBO. We also had something new that we ran where we partner with community-based organizations, and they ran our program for middle school students, right? Those are students who this year are in grade 7 and grade 8. And we ran a summer bridge program that was for students who are now freshmen, right? So we targeted that program for that transition. In there, we did ELA, math, social emotional learning, and instruction related to college and career. We also partner with CBOs to provide enrichment during the summer bridge program. And last but not least, we ran the credit recovery program, again intended for students to gain credit and get them closer to graduation. In the next slide, I want to review with you the cost. So the overall cost, when you think about the salary and the fringe, right, this accounted for all the instructional staff, inclusive of school special police officers, nurses, social workers, counselors, or coordinators, right? Inclusive of our para-educators. So all of that, including fringe, came to about 1.4 million. Transportation costs. By the way, we included transportation also for suburban students this year. That came in at about 1.5 million. And small amount for the supplies and other expenses that we needed. That was about 23,000. And you see here, like close to a $3 million expense to be able to offer all the summer programming. In the next slide, I want to share with you enrollment. So what you are seeing here is that a total of 2,402 students participated, right? We have a lot of students enrolled, but at the end of the day, these were the students who came and participated throughout the 4 weeks and 5 weeks of the program. So you see here early start again, or K-5 students. You are seeing the overall, and we are giving you a breakdown of how many of the students were students with disabilities and students who identify as multilingual learners. In the summer bridge, again, this was our transition program. So these are our current 9th graders. So we had 153 who participated, and you have it broken down again by students with disability and multilingual learners. And the last one, you are seeing our credit recovery. So these are students or high school students, right? Students who were in either 9, 10, 11, or 12th grade last year. Again, broken down by those two identifications. I also want to add that the program that I mentioned at the beginning, the one that was ran by our CBOs, we did have 224 students who participated in that program. So this is what enrollment, participation in programming looked like. In the next slide, I want to show you the breakdown of the staff. So here you have the number of teachers, right? Classroom teachers. And you also have support staff. That is the breakdown in each of the programs. I also wanted to give you staffing as it relates to our early start, right? This is the students that come because it is written in their IEP. that they participate in early school year. And you also see the breakdown of teacher to support staff. And I also wanted to give you a close look of the number of para educators that supported us in summer programs this summer. In the next slide, I want to share with you what attendance looked like. So here you are seeing the overall, by the way, I want to point out overall would be for the programs that HPS was running with their own staff. So that pertains to Early Start, Summer Bridge, and Credit Recovery. But I did want to highlight for you, we asked our CBOs to give us their attendance rates, their average attendance rate, and that is where you're seeing the 85%. But if you are doing the math and you say, wait, that doesn't match the average overall, that is why I'm flagging, right? That middle school average is not accounted in our average because we're only looking at the ones that we were running and not the CBOs. Okay. And again, you see the breakdown by student with disability and multilingual learners. In the next slide, I wanted to show you that we wanted to have a means to be able to assess, right, how our students were doing. And on the, we hone in on literacy and numeracy every year in Early Start. And I wanted to share with you that this year we use Lexia Core 5 as what we wanted to look to see and look at progress over time in summer school. So Lexia Core 5 basically allows you to assess your students and be able to not only track how much time they're spending. It is an online assessment. It allows you to see how much time they're spending. We leverage those lessons within the lesson design for Early Start, and we were able to track how many units, right, the students were completing in class and how they were progressing through the levels. So for example, we had 213 students who were able to advance at least one level in Core 5, which is with the typical student completing 0.25 levels. And here you see the completion broken down by grade. But again, I want to clarify, this is Core 5 levels, right? This is the levels that are used within this online platform. In the next slide, I do want to highlight also the units that students completed. In this Core 5 Lexia assessment, a student can complete anywhere from 30 to 100 units. And we are very proud because in only 4 weeks, right, that's all that our students had, a total of 20 days, right? Students were able to complete this number of students. And I want to highlight our current second graders, right? They rocked it out. They were able to complete 11.5 units. And then you see, like, how does that translate into an average instructional month? And you see the equivalence here if you were able to do that translation. So we are very proud of the work that our staff did with our students and the level of engagement that the students had, where you can see here that translated into instruction that we were able to extend over the summer. In the next slide, we also want to share with you what we utilize for math. In this case, as part of the design for the program, the curriculum, there was a pre-assessment and a post-assessment that was done in summer school, again, to measure are the kids growing. And you can see here that we saw growth in that assessment. Every grade level increased from the pre-assessment to the post-assessment, with the greatest large gains here that you're seeing in terms of look at our current 4th graders now, right? That rising third. You can see that big span of growth from the pre to the post. But also, again, you see gains here or rising all grades, but a rising first, rising second. Again, very proud of the work that the staff did with our students this summer. In the next slide, I also want to highlight our CBOs. Very happy that we had 12 community-based partnerships who supported our 14 sites that were open this summer. And in that enrichment piece, there were 1,155 students who were enrolled. Very grateful, right? Some exciting activities that they did with our students, such as field trips. There were 27 different field trips that were experienced by our kids. Lots of kids around peer connections, developing friendships, and we put an emphasis on fun. We wanted our kids to have fun this summer. And here you see some samples of some of the activities that the kids participated in, right? So you see like trips to the Connecticut Science Fair, Trinity College, photographic tours of Hartford. So again, grateful for the work of our CBOs and that we were able to bring that experience to our students. In the next slide, also wanted to give you what that participation looked like. So this is the data that we asked for from our partners. And here you see the partners, right? HCM at Global, HHC at Sanchez, UpMed, The Village, Catholic Charities, Boys and Girls Club, and Connect Kids, Camp Current. So again, you see some of that engagement. In the next slide, I want to highlight credit recovery. There were a total of 555.75 credits that were recovered this summer in a period of the 5 weeks that students were in credit recovery, Monday through Thursday. And we were very happy, right? As you saw, that we were able to then add 29 graduates to our graduating class of 2022. So we were very happy about that. So on the next slide, just want to also highlight the amazing work that was done by the other offices to support this work. So you see here transportation. As I mentioned earlier, this was the first year that we were able to offer transportation to suburban students. And you see here number of bus routes, number of door-to-door transportation for special education students. Grateful again for all the meals that were provided this summer. So you see the breakdown here. But overall, 70,752 meals that were served across the entire district. And I also want to highlight the support that we received from Chief Blackberg's and Chief Davis Gooch teams as it relates to technology. So you see here, we have one-to-one technology this summer and interactive boards that we were able to use in summer classrooms. And there were some incentives that were provided to our students, such as school supplies, book, headphones, and some fridges that were used during early start and summer bridge. So I know that I went extremely fast because we're a little over time, but Kaylin is here with me today in case there are any questions that you want to flag at this time.
Okay, thank you so much for that presentation. And I do see that Ms. Board Member Brody has a question. Board Member Brody, and well, we'll start with Board Member Brody.
I just have two questions for, one, I would like to know the cost of the transportation in particular to the suburban students, because I see the data, gives a cost for transportation, but I didn't see anywhere where it broke out the cost for the suburban students. And the second question is, you mentioned that it was a requirement per the IEP that a child attends early start. And in that case,
Ms. Brody,
my-
I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's for the not the early start, but the ESY, which is the early school year.
okay, early school year. Okay, my question would be, I'm surprised that we could make that be a requirement, but say if the child does not attend and it's due to whatever reason the family has, right? Who is deemed, like, because when you don't follow things on the IEP is out of compliance. So I'm trying to understand where that would lay if the family has a circumstance and the child does not attend. How is that maybe described, written up on the IEP as far as it being out of compliance for that particular thing?
So you're absolutely right. So if I'm a special education student, right, at the end of the year when they hold the annual, at that point the PBT will determine, is this kid being recommended for ESY or not? And then at that point, right, that will be documented that the student is being recommended for ESY. And that is when then the team follows up to make sure that they're set up with registration to then come to ESY. When a child does not attend, I'm going to double check with special education, but I believe that what happens at that point would be that then when they begin to work with the IEP at the beginning of the year, that they have to look at the IEP and begin to talk about like what has happened, what has transpired, but I'm not 100% certain that if there's anything noted on specifically on the IEP that would say, hey, I want a flag, the kid was recommended for ESY and the kid did not attend. So I want to make sure that I'm giving you detail, clear and concrete about how it is. Does that get documented there? Or is that then just mentioned at another type of a meeting that happens throughout the year? So I'm going to know then to give you specificity around that.
Dr. Gordon, if I could also hop in. And again, we would need to double check with our special education department. I do not believe it is required per their IEP that they attend, but it is required that it is written on their IEP in order to be able to go. So there are some special education students who do not have ESY listed on their IEP because the level of need does not qualify them for that extended year program. So our extended year students, in order to attend, need to have it written on their IEP.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And we have, thank you so much. And we have Board Member Oliver. The floor is yours.
Thank you. And I'll keep it quick. First of all, thank you for the presentation. Appreciate the data that was presented, and especially with the outcomes. So I just going to keep this quick and ask one general question. So in terms of the number of students who actually attended the summer programming, I know that obviously there's usually an interest to get more students, and that, you know, happens every year and all that. And I wonder if there's been opportunity to receive feedback from families and students who are not attending, or what is it that we can do to try to increase the actual enrollment in there for the subsequent attendance as well.
Dr. Gordon, would you like me to take this one?
Yes, please.
Absolutely. Hello, Board Member Oliver. So we did send out a survey to our families. We conducted a pre and a post survey, as well as to students. A lot of the feedback that we received from families, as you can see, there is some disparity between the number of students who registered and the number of students who actually attend. So a lot of the feedback that we received from families is, vacation plans came up, or we decided to travel, or it didn't work out, or the transportation times were different. We are looking to increase the level of incentives that we offer. So we've been in contact with several community organizations in order to make that summer bridge in particular more appealing to students, in partnering with things like the Hartford Promise to see if we can do an early promise, or things like more field trips. We had a lot of feedback from students that they thoroughly enjoyed those field trips. So we definitely have received feedback from parents. We've mostly focused on the parents that were in the program or had originally registered for the program, and for whatever reason did not send their student as regularly as we would have liked them to, if at all. So we would also like to reach out to our families who didn't register to kind of see what those barriers were as well.
Thanks. That's really great to hear, and very happy also to hear about the work you're doing to coordinate with community partners, as I'm sure if there are other opportunities in the summer, right, it becomes competition and have that unintended consequence. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, especially for our 8th graders. So our rising 8th graders going into 9th grade, we had to compete with the workforce. So they're able to get out and get those summer jobs. So that was a difficult competition for us.
Thank you so much. And let's see, Board Member Oliver, your hand is still up, but are you all set now? Okay, thank you. The hand has gone. Thank you so much. So at this time, because we have gone over time, if there are, let me just check the chat. Okay, if there are no more questions, we are going to conclude our meeting. And thank you everyone for attending, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night,
Thank
all.
you. Good night.